therefore, it would be very interesting to see, to hear your conversations. Would you call it betrayal, or would you call it, as some have actually been stating, that is actually smart working? Well, we'll be hearing that entire conversation from the women and men and the boys and girls listening and following this conversation live on 75 W Radio and on Umma Connect today, on Tuesday, the 10th of August 2021. Well, I'll be hoping to hear from you. We'll just allow a little bit of time so that we can get more people on board. Quite often what happens is the conversation starts, gets interesting, and then you get people joining in having missed out parts of the conversation. So we'll allow another 5 minutes maybe to allow. And this conversation, I'll tell you, has already heated up on Facebook. It's been getting people talking, people responding to this particular story, each one with a different perspective to it. Musa Kibenge says, my phone and my power bank in hand. Hanifa Chigozi says, I'm off, inshallah, we'll attend. So I'm hoping to see you here. Diana says, I almost assumed I had missed this. And no, you hadn't missed. We're just starting, and it's 5 minutes now past 8 o'clock on Tuesday, the 10th of August, 2021. And I've been hearing lots of these stories. Some of the stories, I will actually repeat them later on in the conversation as we go ahead in the program, just to hear your kind of take on, well, I just missed one. I'll just share it here. I'll just read it out while we allow our people to join. This one, I will not be naming names. What I'll do is I'll just mention the stories, because some of these stories are too personal, maybe to reveal the people involved in the stories. So this person says, what's wrong with paying rent? He wanted to sleep in free. Maybe the wife knew that he would not contribute. It's all family money being recycled. It's quite interesting when you get different definitions to a particular thing. Now, there's something very interesting that when we were composing this particular topic for tonight, it is based on a story that has been running. We are about 16 episodes now in, that has been written by a playwright, Ashraf Semogere, who I hope to be joining us very shortly in this conversation, to help us also probably, first of all, lay out the story behind this particular story that we are talking about, and that might actually influence maybe your particular position on this particular story. I'll just do a little bit of the detail of the story, but then the nitty-gritty of the story, I think, will be much and better explained by Ashraf Semogere, the playwright, that is a very famous playwright that we all, I'm sure, know as Ugandans, where he actually, delves into the depth of the story, because it is with that we are having this conversation. So basically, the short and long the story is, husband is a professional doctor. He gets a scholarship to come and continue with his studies in the United Kingdom, leaves wife in Uganda, comes here, and even after completion of his studies, he's actually working with a big multinational pharmaceutical company, in which case he's earning quite a lot of money. And with the money, because he had a lot of money at his disposal, buys a house in London, and then continues to send money back home for rent, with the intention that, once he goes back home, he would be able, to build a mansion, a house that fits their particular kind of standard. Or if not, then maybe at least provide, that they would be able to find a better accommodation. And the idea was, in the short run, we are renting the house, but with a long-term feeling or planning that once I come back home, we can just get into our own house. Or alternatively, maybe if the wife had actually suggested, the amount of money they were spending on the rent, the supposed rent, $1,500 per month, because sometimes you don't get the gist of on the strength of these kind of conversations. But it was $1,500 that was being paid as rent to a house. What the wife does and what happens next is quite interesting, because the wife now starts getting the money, manages to build a very beautiful house, in one of the wealthy suburbs of Kampala, in Tinda. And after completing the house, she continues to live in the house with the children, never telling them that actually this was their house, but continues to receive the money from the husband, and continues to pay the rent. 7 years down the road, 7 years of $1,500 per month, not per annum, per month. Definitely, this was someone that was earning, some very good money. 7 years of $1,500 per month. Husband returns home, talks about the possibility of even buying a house. The wife is insistent. Is a bit, is a bit slow in allowing that to happen. Husband just decides, as a man, because from the husband's family, they were sort of saying, you're spending a lot of money on the rent. Is it possible that we can actually probably, why don't you like build or buy your own house? Husband secretly, goes behind, buys the house. And when he does this, he's actually wanting to surprise his family. He gets the exact plan of the house that they were living in, but then polishes it up because it is modernity, makes the house really beautiful, and as part of a Christmas gift, waits and invites the entire family to come and be part of the celebrations. As he tries to surprise everyone, the children are absolutely happy. One daughter, three sons. One daughter, three sons, absolutely happy, and then they go into their house. Wife, meanwhile, is actually having a double face because she wasn't absolutely happy, or she was in shock. One, the husband actually refused to pay for the next because he was paying 3 months in a row. So in a year, he would make 4 payments because he was making payments over 3 months. And so husband now gets the money that was supposed to go to the 3 months, dedicates that amount of money to the completion of whatever was left to the building. And, so someone has already given us a good mathematics here, $126,000. $126,000 in 7 years of paying $1,500 per month. And so what happens then, husband, stops the payment over the next payment of 3 months. Wife is pushing, but in so doing, she knows her limits because the husband wasn't mentioning anything. But now the wife uses the brother. She was using her brother, who was like now coming to say the landlord is really on our neck, wants the money paid. A lot of pressure comes in, and then the husband, really unbeknownst to him, he just says, you know what? We have been paying a lot of money. I have a surprise for my family. I will not be paying the next 3 months because I'm actually going into our own house. This looked like really a manly decision, very huge celebration between the children. Wife, actually, out of the pressure of all of this, gets a stroke. She gets a heart attack and gets paralyzed. She couldn't speak no more. She could just speak with gestures or signs. The story is absolutely long. It's not that. So this was really the basis of the story. And when we were having a conversation with my wife, we were saying, this might be a topic that actually might get people talking, but we weren't sure how that would be played. Would we just play it out as betrayal, or maybe it's some family affairs? And I thought we really narrowed it down. I narrowed it now to betrayal, but as just one aspect of betrayal. Would you feel betrayed? How do you think the husband felt? Coming to the realization, actually, when one of the brokers comes to him to say, you know what, you've been paying for this house, but all this money goes to your wife. Wife never mentions anything. Well, this is the conversation for tonight, live on 75W Radio and live on Umma Connected on Zoom and on YouTube, where we are streaming already live. That's the conversation. I would like to hear your own takes on the stories. Like I said, we have already heard from someone who thinks actually that the woman wasn't wrong about it, because she says, what's wrong with paying rent? He wanted to sleep in free. Maybe the wife knew that he would not contribute. It's all family money being recycled. That's definitely a view. I would like to hear your own take in that. Remember, you can actually just raise up your hand, or as we do here, this is a global community conversation. The moment you join, be assured that if I see you, I'll just pick up on you. And since we are just opening up the conversation, it will be very interesting to just hear what you have to say. And oh my God, the messages are already flowing in. This one is a confession. This one says, and I would not mention names, because like I said, this is a conversation that sometimes might actually even break up homes. This one says, it's not betrayal. It's called playing smart. Because myself, I did it. When I got married, I was building my house. Finishing. So Wami was looking for a house to rent. Konze, I know someone rented out the house. It's not yet finished, Burundi. I did persuade him, as us women, We can pay Gonza when we want something. He agreed. I told him it's only 700K a month. I knew he can afford. I set my friend as the landlord, so he was paying towards my finishing. 700K towards materials, etc. I add on. I told him when he joined me here, he couldn't believe it. He wasn't upset or anything. He just asked me why I didn't tell him. Ponze Narinka studying. It's not betrayal, it's called smart working. Is that a view that you would hold? Well, here, I think Narong is already heating up the conversation. Says here, well, why did she go to such extent? I think men should chill. Leila Narvega says she is a sharp wife. Ismail Mugisha says, how much was the value of the house he was renting? Well, it was actually in a, I mean, if you hear that the house was in a leafy suburb of Kampala in Inda, one of the posh areas in Kampala, definitely, I mean, that was something. And someone was actually telling me, she was sharing another experience. Surprise, surprise, actually, many of the stories are from women. This lady here tells me, yes, there was actually another story here in the UK when a man fainted the moment he realized that his wife, he had been paying off his wife's mortgage and he didn't know that they were living in a house thinking they are renting, but he was paying off the wife's mortgage. Now, these are stories that are definitely going to be recycled here and there, but it is your conversation. I would like to hear what you have to say about that. Would you feel betrayed? How would you deal with that? As a man, would you rather also secretly, once you found out, would you face your wife and tell her, or would you also go into the back room and start doing your own stuff? Maybe to surprise her as well. How would you do it? I'd like to hear from you. Remember, conversation is here on Umma Connect Live and on 75W Radio on Facebook. And we will be starting shortly on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Snapchat. Rolling live to hear you, what you have to say. Catherine is already here. Darling says it depends on the relationship that you had. She may have wanted to secure her future with the children, or even the money she received was reinvested in the family. Sophie Murangwa here says she was an intelligent wife. He should have been proud of her. Ika. Well, I'm waiting now to hear from our playwright, famous playwright, Hyde Ashraf Semogere, who I'm sure many of you know. Once he joins us, I think I'll bring him on and we will have a conversation. Well, this is the ladies from the sound of it. They're actually, I would like to hear from the ladies first, and then I'll take the men's take on that. Well, let me take the ladies first. Faida Mitiana, I can see you already up and rolling. What would you do about that? Is it to support the woman in the decision that she took? Salamu alaikum. Oh my God. Okay, no worries. We'll take it slowly. Let me start with the men. I've just seen Haji Karim Karisa of NBS already here. I'm sure it's a story that probably is close to the heart. What would you do? Haji Karim, salamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Haji Karim, I can see you are there. Could you please unmute? Haj Karim, I think I'll wait. We'll just let the conversation get flowing. Sophie Murango, I've seen you already spoken. You've just flagged something saying she was an intelligent wife. You should have been proud of her, Chika. Sophie, where you are you able to speak? If you are, please. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi.
Welcome to the conversation. You seem to be in support of the woman.
Yes, I am. Even some men do the same. So that's fine. I think it's fine. Men do
the same.
Yeah.
And would you not feel that there's a sense of betrayal if someone you are paying, you are paying all this money into a project that then ultimately is going to the woman, because the woman doesn't even declare. There's one thing that, for example, you are saving for the family, where at some point in time you intend to come out and go public about it. You have not mentioned anything. This doesn't sound right. For a man would feel hurt. Would you not feel the same? I mean, if it was a husband who did that to you?
Yes, I'll feel hurt, but it happens and you just have to let go, because I think this woman thought this gentleman won't pay if they had told him that that's their house. Right. Sometimes they do that. If they know that this is my wife's house, I'm going to sit down and chillax and I won't pay anything. Maybe that's what she thought. So she had to lie. But I don't blame her. And it goes both ways. So
assuming you are the wife and the husband was doing this to you, You found out. Would you face him and tell them, or would you have an alternative plan as well?
No, I wouldn't even bother with him. I would do this. In fact, I would just leave him. I do my own things too, because it does happen. And
So
the
where
things
is family in that sense? Because when you say like that, it sounds like if everybody's doing their own stuff, where is the trust in the home? The home is supposed to be run on trust.
But if, like you were saying, that the man felt betrayed,
Yes,
so
I would feel the same.
yes, so is that's what will happen exactly. Do you think the woman or the man will say, let's do something together? Of course they won't. Even the other way around, the woman will say, no, 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 no. The trust is gone, and it's gone. That's it.
Sophia, remain there. Don't go away. Don't touch that dial. Hajat Sarah Semakuna, your hand is up. Let's just hear.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You've just had Sophia's argument. Is that the
Yeah.
same position that you hold as well?
Yeah, I'm 100% with Sophie, because at the end of the day, yeah, Shay, and I don't even think the man should be sweating it. At the end
Right.
of the day, he's the father of the children, yeah? And if this is the method the lady has used, everything is going to go back to their children. We
What's
have
the
ways
guarantee?
of work.
Because how does it go back to the children when the husband is sweating,
What
left, right, and center, and is not benefiting?
everything both a mother and a father owns is for the children at the end of the day. She's just making savings for the future. So would he rather he pay that money to a stranger who is not going to bring anything back to him? It's gone back into the family, and somehow, somewhere, it will be coming out to him. If the husband will run, out of pocket, do you think that woman would keep that money? She would obviously take it out and use it. If the children were lacking in anything, the mother will always chip in. So I don't really think, I always even advise my own friends and children now, whoever always complain about women having secret projects or doing secret things. I say to them, just chill. Let them do what they think is making them happy. With a woman, you were assured that whatever she does will always come back to you, which is not the same with men. A man, once he marries another wife, all the wealth will be divided between all of you. Yeah.
No,
But with a woman,
Sarah, that's where I feel a little bit of a disagreement. Why do women feel always that whenever a man does a project, it will be for another woman and not for her? Why does it feel like, because every time a woman does something, she will be referring to that as her wealth and her children's, and then if it is the man's, then it will go to another
you
woman.
know why? Because we only marry one. We don't have the chance of marrying more than one. That's the reason. You at any time in life you can always get another woman, and that will you'll have more than one. But for a mother of your children, unless she's divorced you, but she will always be with you, and the children will all belong to you. So there is no way her wealth is going to go to anyone. Yeah. And I'm sure there is some reasons. Sometimes we look at what has happened and we don't know why.
Yeah.
Of course, there is some reasons. If only she could come out and tell us why. She must have some reasons. But I think whatever she did, she just kept the wealth within the family. It's not gone out. So we
Sarah,
can't blame her
the
that
problem
much.
is in today's world where we have ended up, and with women who seem to be very ambitious and even sometimes gluttonous, very mean, and out there to sort of grab anything that they can get their hands on. At least that's the kind of view that is coming across. For you to say that whatever they have is going down ultimately to end up with everyone, well, with the entire family, might not necessarily come across, as the truth.
Why do you think so, Shay? Because
Well,
tell
I'm
me.
just asserting. Well, let me just read this message to you, and probably I'll get your response to that. Imkan, he has written, I think that it is seen as betrayal, and the woman was exploiting the man's situation, and the only reason why women are agreeing is because the woman. One second. The reason the women are agreeing is because the woman exploited the man, and if it was the other way around, the women now would be out and be talking or speaking against that. What would you say to that? As you said,
If I'm the only wife, I wouldn't even worry about him doing other investments. My worry would become if he's got another woman or we are more than one. Yeah, I would worry. But if I'm the only woman, I wouldn't worry. At the end of the day, I know whatever he's striving for is for our family.
Take Sheikh Sekade's statement where he says every man has a woman out there, regardless of whether you know them or not. For you to
And
say
that's the
that,
very reasons.
is
That's
that
the
the
very
insecurity
reason.
that pushes you to do
Yeah,
that?
that's the
Yeah.
very reason why women end up doing things in a secretive way. That's the reason, because they don't trust you.
Well,
But what?
Laila Kad was just saying, you never know, you can never know if you are the only woman. So this kind of insecurity.
Yeah, I don't mind those concubines or whatever they call them, whether they're mistresses. At the end of the day, if they're not legal, they don't really do my head in. They'll
Yes.
just have the kind of crumbs from whatever my husband may have, but they're not going to have the whole thing, you see, the crumbs from the real cake. So
Yes.
they don't bother me that
You
much.
take the cake. Ismail
Mm-hmm.
Mukisha is saying she's a sharp wife. No, I don't think so. If she was, we should have had plan B. We should have had plan B and not get a stroke because of the shock that the big price, that she was going to pay. Actually, when you see the woman's getting a stroke was out of the shock that the husband had found out. And the problem is from the story, because the story is still unfolding, we are unable to know whether actually this woman had an opportunity to sort of say or give her side of the story, because all the arguments we are making now are on the assumption, like that this story seems to end with her getting a stroke. Meanwhile, she's in London getting treatment, and we don't know what happens. Thank you very much, Sarah. Stay on the line. Catherine, your hand is up. Very interesting. I'd like to hear what the men actually have to say, but the women seem to be up in arms, and that is literally. Catherine, welcome to the program.
All right, thank you. So my take on all this that's
Where are you
coming up.
joining us from, Catherine?
I'm in New York.
In New York. Oh, thank you very much.
Yes.
This is a global community conversation, and therefore from UK to Uganda, now we are in New York. Welcome.
Well, we're all here. So my take on all this thing, we have to look back. We all Ugandans up here, but we have to look at what is happened in our community. We've had men, invest in things, invest in a lot of things. Let's put in particular in Uganda. So by the time the man dies without putting any legality or putting down the wife or the children as, ownership of whatever he had, you find family members coming running to take away these properties from the women and the children. So I will side with this woman because first of all, I would say she's a smart woman. She's smart. She should have thought, ahead of everything. But when she began taking that money from the husband, where did she put the money? We don't know where she put the money, but I personally still think that when she got that money, she looked at it that if anything happens to my husband, what's going to happen to me and my children?
Catherine, here is the situation. Here is the scenario, though. This man was earning a lot of money to the point that he bought a house in the UK, big house, a comfortable house, that later on comes into the picture where the woman ends up being brought. She was living there while she was undergoing treatment in one of the best hospitals in London. But the husband's interest was, let us buy our own house, let us own our own house. If really the interests were, in the well-being of the family, why did she not, allow the money to come? Because the husband had adequate money. They were really not short of money. Let me just add something. Let me do an addendum to this. The husband and wife had set up a string of pharmacies in Kampala, because he was working with the pharmaceutical company, but then they had established their own pharmacies around Kampala, a chain of pharmacies. So their income there was no threat to the income, to their kind of lifestyle. The amount of money that the husband had suggested is, why don't we even buy our own house? In fact, when the husband returns, he says, I've got enough money, can we buy a house? And the wife was resisting. Does that not really raise the issue of, of kind of hypocrisy in this particular sense?
No, I disagree with you on that. Okay, the husband may have had all the money he has and invested in many things that he had invested in, but we don't know if he had his wife's name in those things. Because
with the pharmacies, they were joint owners. They were partners in the business.
That's the pharmacy, but we're talking about the properties that they were buying. Because we know it that many men tend to put their names into these properties and neglect the woman in this part. So they may have joint ownership of the pharmacy.
The husband didn't have any property, Catherine. The husband didn't have any property. Left the wife because when he left, they were renting this posh house. They continued, and the wife, in the meantime, used the money he was sending to arrange and buy this particular house without telling the husband. But I see a hand from Zaid Mahabuba. Zaid, speak to Catherine. I'm sure you've heard Catherine and the other ladies who have been on so far. This is the first man's take on this. Your take.
Okay. Let me hear the
Catherine,
man.
stay there. This is a global conversation. So we just talk, we don't shout at each other, but we listen to one another and try to find ways ahead.
Okay.
Bwenkebeddeko kuno siira bagenda kunjogeza luzungu kuno kanjogera oluganda bonna balutegeera
waliko imukani omulabye
ajja kutegeera oluganda.
Okay.
First things first. Keke omuntu bw'abanga awasiza omuntu oba nga afumbiddwa omuntu tekitegeeza nti ebintu byonsanze nabyo oba byenkusanze nabyo bifuuse byaffe bikyali bibyo. Ekyo ne Katonda yakisalawo dda kubanga abimpa oba abikuwa mmaze kufa. Nekitegeeza nti omuntu bw'aba keke nayima ebintu byakusanze nabyo nebyokoze byonna mu mannya go bibyo obuyinako obuyinza bwonna and you can make decisions nga tomuwebuuzizaako. Bw'omala okufa n'alyoka bi-owning Katonda n'alyoka amuwa. Naye olw'obuntu bulamu tugamba nti kale byaffe. So omukyala ekintu kye yakola simunenya wadde n'ensu n'omundi no. She was 110% right. She's a landlady. Omusajja apangise nga wanapangise wantu walla kubanga oba oli awo abamugamba nti ennyumba yange teyali sasudde rent ate omukyala ayagala sente ayagala security ye ayagala kuinvestinga mu bintu birala.
This house was bought when these people were married. It's not like it was a property that was existing before the husband came into the picture. Bali bonna sente ze yali aweereza omukyala ze yamobilizing n'agula the same house, and then they continued to rent the house when the woman had bought the house. In a sense of trust, in a sense of a home, you are inside a home, man is sweating left, right, and center, sending money that is coming in the name of rent. Watch omukyala tiyasobola ganti obene enyumba tugiguze, maybe even reveal it to the husband. Because that's
now,
where the issue is. What's the problem?
Ekitegeeza nti esente omukazi ze yagulamu ennyumba zaali za musajja nga yazikola.
Yes. Musajja yaweereza renti era zimala okugwayo ng'amaze okusasula ennyumba. She kept insisting like okusigala nga basasula rent. To the point that the husband ajja okumanya nga broker gwe yafunye agenda okumugulira what he did. Yakwata plan y'ennyumba eri yennyini nga bw'eri n'afuna in a posh area, actually same in a different area, na adopting ennyumba eri nga bw'efaanagana family eno ekubaako kyeruuzi in terms of badde banyumibwa. The only thing was a modern house with modern facilities. That was the difference. But this is not a house omukyala yali agiina omwami bwe yagira mu kifaananyi.
Kati nkutegedde olw'ensonga eyo omukyala mubbi.
Catherine, you've just had Zaid. Respond to Zaid.
That is safety. Obubbi obwenkukunala. Tazikolangako sente za musajja. That calls for a divorce. It calls for a divorce. That's betrayal of the first order.
Sophia, you can hear Zaid. Sophia, you can hear Zaid.
Yes, I can hear him.
Yeah, but Sophia, Catherine, that's betrayal of the highest order. Catherine,
speak to Zaid. Catherine, speak to Zaid.
No, like I said, I still disagree. It's not betrayal. Let's put it. It's truth be told, it's not betrayal. The money, let's say, the money was reinvested. The money is not being taken away. You get the money. You're calling back for more rent. That's the reinvestment of the money that is already being put out there.
Reinvestment to where?
To the family.
Right.
So that's how I look at it. Because do you think she's going to spend
the shock that comes with the shock that comes with the husband's realization of what was going on? Let's try to paint a scenario, because now I'm still waiting for Haj Ashraf. He's actually trying to connect. I think he's finding problems connecting from Uganda. He's sending me messages to say he's trying to connect in, and I think he should be joining us anytime. But the point, Catherine, that I'm trying to, I think we are sort of crossing the bridge before we reach it. But the point is, would it be that this woman's getting a stroke or shocked was the fact that, the husband found out earlier than she had planned? Was there a point of return where you could say that now I've had enough money, it's time to reveal to the husband and then we go on? Or would she just continue milking the husband?
Okay, okay. Like again, I'm going to agree and say the woman was smart, but like you just mentioned, that she probably thought she had more time to come, because like they say, a thief has 7 days or whatever days they have. So that's what may have happened to her. But then by the time she was caught, she hadn't achieved what she was looking for. And maybe along the way, because I don't think she was going to end at that, because again, we are women. And I think women who are joining in the live will agree with me with this. They will agree and say, okay, as women, we tend to plan, because sometimes we begin saying our husbands are investing in something else, but we want to have security for our own family. We've had women invest and then come back at the end of it when they see everything is failed, and they bring it over to the husband and tell them, this is what I've been doing and this has been for our family. So
how would you respond, Catherine? How would you respond to Zaid's making a statement that this is a big thief, not a smart woman?
No, she's not a thief. I disagree with the thief part. That's not stealing, because if that is just being, she's business minded. That's not stealing. She's a businesswoman. Look at it. It's not like she just decided to steal, because I don't think that is stealing.
Yeah. Haj Ashraf, assalamu alaikum. Welcome very much to the conversation. It's good you've been able to join us. Haj Ashraf Semwongereni is one of the best playwrights in Uganda, as you notice. And he's joined us. His story really is the basis of the conflict that we are having. Haj Ashraf, I'm going to allow about 3 minutes so that you can hear the conversation, and then we can pick up with you, because you've just joined us. The conversation is very heated. Many women siding with the woman who built the house or bought the house and didn't tell the husband. Many men thinking she is a thief. You will be able to join us in the conversation. I saw a hand. I think it was Shamsu. Shamsu, if you can unmute yourself, please. Shamsu, I saw your hand and then it just disappeared. Shamsu, I was just welcoming Haj Ashraf. Haj Ashraf, who has just joined us from Kampala. It is the basis of his story that actually led to this conversation. Shamsu, I'm trying to see where you are at. Please, if you can unmute yourself. Shamsu, you just disappeared. I could see you, but then suddenly, let me see if I can find you. All of a sudden, you've just disappeared off the map. Haj Karim Karisa, I can see you are there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's a heated debate, and I'm sure you were here from the very start of it. Let's hear a man's take on this. You've been hearing the ladies on fire, and then only one man has come out so far to say your take.
Thank you so much. Very interesting, and you can even take your breath for such a story. And as many have said, and the conclusion of my sheikh, my imam, Mahbub, Allah, they are not you can study. And such interesting stories are very important. And Ashraf, you've brought, used to do such on Voice of Africa. He used to call it Omuswiba. He's the initiator of Omuswiba. And what he used to do, he could bring such a people and they would speak their side. Yes. If you had done that and you record these people, really, we can learn a lot. But what I can see, I'm seeing some mistrust somewhere. I can sense some mistrust where maybe this lady is, she's having some issues. And she's not, as these prior speakers, these ladies who have been speaking, in future, they are not sure of what would happen. Much as they are saying that she would come back to the family, which I'm not sure, because at first I didn't pick it, and I had to pick when Sheikh Mahbuba was talking, really. It is a bit queer, but what I'm studying, there is mistrust between the two people. Really, if a man can do with all the sweat and the lady keeps quiet, keep mum, there is a lot really to be desired and to trace between the two people. So What I would conclude with, I am sensing some betrayal somewhere, which we don't want to be suspicious about, but there is something wrong somewhere, my brother. Otherwise, if there is love, if they see the family is always built on the stronghold of the love.
Haji
With
Karisha,
that-
do you find any problem? Do you find any problem with all the ladies that seem to be supportive of what this woman did? Because they're talking about insecurities where men have betrayed their wives, either they have brought in a second wife. The assumption is always when you get more money or when you bring in a lot more money, the next thing is going to be a second wife.
Yeah,
because the story behind this guy, the story behind this doctor, is that they finished campus together in the medical school. They started their pharmacies together. They basically built everything from scratch. They had their pharmacies that were working well. This husband gets a chance to go for his master's, and then ends up working with a pharmaceutical company, a very big job where he was actually earning a lot of money. He decides to say, while the businesses were thriving to the point that the pharmacy did not need even his money while he was abroad, to put energy into the project. They were running perfectly well with auditors coming and giving audit reports that were fantastic. The husband's now, the money that he managed even to put together, buying a house in London, a big house in London, but also in Kampala, he's saving money. His family is sort of asking, a man is a house. Like even with the English, they say, an Englishman's castle is an Englishman's house is his castle. Because a man is a house, but this man was so blinded to the love he had with his wife that he had not really done anything about this particular situation. So I can see Haj Ashraf, I think he had dropped off and he's trying to join again. It's a bit difficult. So Haj Kaisa, just before I let you go, the point then is, what would you say to these women, to all the women that seem to all have agreed and supported this particular stance of this particular lady?
Come again.
I was just asking, what would you say to these women? We've had all the women that have spoken so far in the conversation, be it Sophia,
Yes.
Sarah, be it Catherine. They are all speaking from the point of view that they are supportive of the woman, despite the fact that we seem to find a sense of betrayal in this particular sense. What would you say to them now that they are listening to you, they are hearing you? What would you say to them?
What I would say, and to everybody's listening, I'm very sure, and you, Sheikh KK, you are aware that women are more patient than us, than men. That one, 100%, everybody's aware. From what they have seen, really, I think there is a big betrayal on the side of men than women. Men tend to bring in kajanja, nga bafunyeyo ku bagole.
Please.
You seem to be softening now to the ladies.
Ekigambo ekyo kitiisa nnyo abakyala okutijjisa abagole n'oyagala n'okwerabira ono gwe wava naye Makerere. Ekigambo kiteeka ku baami. To creating that fear to our existing wives, and when the other thing happened, we fail to balance and to tijja n'omugole. So that's why I'm seeing a problem. So I end up saying that really abasajja tulina okweddako, we revisit our affairs and how we deal with issues. Eno kawama gye twafuna tugikozeseza tutya? If the kawama is used rightly, nze abakyala tebalina tabu, nze bintu byensobola okumaliriza sebo chairman.
Okay, barakallahu fikum Haji Karisa. I can see a call, hands up from Imkan and then another hand from Abdul Hakim. I'll come to you. I'll just read this message. Imkan, I think, had gone off, but I think he's managed to come back. I'll go to Imkan. If you're there, I'll just take you. Haji Ashraf seems to be having problems connecting. He's been coming in and going off. But there's a message from Tahani who says, at the end of the day, if your wife has your child or children, does it really matter? When she's looked after, your kids are looked after, and that is what you need to remember. Look at it as an investment. It is quite easy for women just to see it simply put like that. Because for a man, imagine you've been working 7 years, 126,000 dollars paid in rent to a house that you're supposed to be living in. it is really hurtful. Fauzia says the issue is that you die and our things are divided in pieces. At least I have mine to fall back on. It's a cruel world we live in, especially for the woman. And there was another message that I just missed in. He says his children's investment. That was from Raihan, I think. No, Imkan's. All right, I'll come to Imkan for you on the phone. But I think the point here, Catherine says we don't know what was happening behind closed doors. We only see what we are allowed to. Man is the problem. It is quite interesting how we are quick to sort of rush to that. Raihan says, I always say many men have the money to run multiple households, but not the brains or the psychology. Painful as it sounds. Halima Binti Dawood says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to the conversation. We will come to you and hear from you. Imkan, your hand, I think, was up. Imkan, I'll try to see if I can get you. And that's a young man listening in, not yet even married, but taking in, listening to this conversation. It would be interesting just to hear what his take is. Imkan, I'm trying to look for you. Your hand was up and then suddenly disappeared. But Abdul Hakim, I think, is, Imkan is here. Imkan, if you can just see him and then he's disappeared. Has he been unmuted? I just wanted to hear from him. His hand was up for quite some time and he had tried to put some messages into the chat room. All right, Imkan. Imkan, yeah, go ahead, Imkan. You've been listening to the conversation. Well, what do you think about this? You are a young man.
I think that it's the woman who's in the wrong. Just because mainly the woman's argument in the chat, they're saying, oh, we don't know if this man, he could have another wife. There's always that other woman that he's fall back to. Just because that woman has insecurities does not mean that it's right for her to exploit the male's situation. Mm-hmm. For example, the male was in the UK, she was in Uganda. She knew everything. She knew that the male would not know that there's not a landlord. So she exploited his situation. 7 hard years he was working, and she exploited him. And then most of the women who are arguing for the women, they're saying, oh, he might have another woman that he's going to fall back to. That's basically my argument, that it's not right for the woman to exploit his situation.
Okay, thank you very much. Abdul Hakim, you are unmuted. Go ahead, please. Abdul Hakim.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. I'm seeing so many new people. I mean, I've seen just Susan Ganafa, I'm seeing Catherine, I'm seeing people that are actually attending the conversation for the first time. This must have been, touching some chord in some people's bodies. And Haj Ashraf, unfortunately, I don't know whether he's managed to get on finally. I'll check and see, but it would be good to have him on. Yes, please.
Sheikh Kassim.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Well,
you've been hearing everything here.
I thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share my views on this, on the topic. But beginningly, I actually think that perhaps
where are you, Abdul Hakim? Just for purposes of
I'm in UAE, United Arab Emirates.
United Arab Emirates. Barakallahu fikum. The more that we feel that this is a global community conversation. Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, indeed it is. So I'm like, first of all, since alhamdulillah, everyone on the platform here, I believe we're all Muslims, right? Mm-hmm. So we should look at these events that are taking place on our social communities from an Islamic perspective. From the Islamic perspective, Khadija radiallahu anha as the example mother to all believers, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the example father to all of us. How did they treat themselves in terms of finances? Mm-hmm. Khadija did not stop Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from marrying another woman. She never mentioned that. It is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's choice that I want. You get it? But that doesn't mean that although Khadija was the one with the finance upper hand, that perhaps maybe she could keep something from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She actually gave it all to him and asked him to manage it because she trusted him. Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, and the brother before me who spoke about the insecurity that he felt that was ongoing there, indeed there is a sense of distrust, but the distrust, I would say that it's not between both husbands, but it's a distrust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's I should call it judgment and fairness. If I trust
Allah, someone here in the chat room says none of these men are like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so we cannot be like Khadija for them.
Yes. No, actually, by the way, as Muslims, we're not supposed to even say none of us is like Muhammad, because yes, Muhammad is our example. So if we don't look forward to Muhammad, then Islam is gone. Because Allah says, He's our example, He's our role model. So every example has to go back to the Prophet, as Muslims, of course, to the Prophet and to his wives and to his grandchildren and everyone that was around him. So they did whatever they did because they were humans, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still judges us by what our fellow humans could do and we claim we can't. So He gave us the same abilities, but different time zones. So that being said, that I feel like as Muslims, we should rebuild in ourselves the confidence in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's fairness. That if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had decreed that this is how life is gonna be on earth, men are gonna be able to do A, B, C, D. Women, you're able of doing A, B, C, D. No man can ever do a duty of a woman fully as she should be, and no woman can ever be a man and do the duties of men. So having hidden some properties that were actually being paid for by a man's savings, in a sense that he's actually paying someone with his with his investment that
All right,
you're planning
Hakim,
for the future of his
thank you very much. I
children.
think, Barakallahu fikum, Abdul Hakim. I'm only taking the mic away from you because I can see so many hands coming in, and because Haj Ashraf Semogere has been struggling to get his mic
No,
on.
it's okay. It's okay.
Please,
It's okay. Really,
Barakallahu fikum. No, definitely. I'm sure they are going to be bashing you left, right, and center. Wait for it to come. It's coming. It won't take long before you see them. Haj Ashraf,
Allah yabarak fikum, ya Rabbi. Allah yahfazkum.
Ashraf, you have been trying to get you on. Ashraf, if you can unmute yourself, please. Hi, Ashraf, I can see you. If you can just unmute yourself, please. Hi, Ashraf, ndaba bandwidth eringe tugama nti eri low. Can you hear us? Because you're moving, I think it is making it difficult for you to. Your mic is. You're not unmuted, Haj Ashraf. Can you unmute yourself, please? You will need to unmute, Haj Ashraf, I think, and I'm trying to get you to unmute. Could some of the co-hosts help me to get Haj Ashraf to unmute, please? Because for some reason I can see he's speaking, and yeah, Haj Ashraf, if you can get him to unmute, please. Let me try. Oh, finally we are there. Yes, Haj Ashraf, obono nyaka sonda ko muyimirira mu olinye kudirisa. Yes.
Preferably, I need to climb about a mountain. It's so interesting. But what I did, in fact, I did not think that it would be like that.
Yes, I've been seeing you trying to join in and struggling to join in, but finally, alhamdulillah, we have lots of messages.
I'm listening. I'm
yes.
so.
Now, lots of messages in the chat room, lots of beautiful conversations going ahead. This is a story that I got off your chat that is actually making lots of rounds. A story that is now actually selling. I should just do the kalango off the back.
Yes.
If you go to Haj Ashraf Semogere's page on Facebook, it was a series that was coming in. Now we are on 16, I think, getting to 16, and from 16, you'd have to pay your 10,000 to be able to access the e-version of the stories. Beautiful story, but Haj Ashraf, I think the controversy here, please lay it out summarily what this woman, because the story was husband pays for rent for nearly 7 years, $1,500, only to find that the house he was actually paying rent for was the wife's. First of all, I'll take your own personal reaction. Would you call that betrayal? Would you feel betrayed if your wife was being bad to you?
Now, that's why I called everything that is love and trust. The man had the love. In fact, the man had the trust.
Yes.
In the wife. But the wife didn't have trust in her husband.
Yeah.
Even the sheikh who advised the man, because the man, when he came to learn about it, the man got annoyed. But a sheikh advised him that is the way women are. They are ever insecure. Ever insecure.
But it's good that you actually.
I think this woman did not even tell any of her son or the daughter. Hardly trusted her brother and sister so much. And it's the brother who betrays.
Yes.
Now, the woman trusted more her brother than the husband.
And just for our listeners, just for our listeners, the brother was the one who was in charge of collecting the rent.
The woman,
yeah,
the extent of strangling. And in one of their sister, Grace, is murdered through poisoning, and poisoned by the brother. And all the problems they are facing, the husband.
Oh, Haj Ashraf, it's absurd that your line is difficult to hear. Your line is difficult to hear. It's really unfortunate because at least you are laying out the details in the story that would have helped our listeners and viewers sort of get a much clearer picture. You try. Let's continue and see if the line gets much more difficult. I think we'll try again and just allow the conversation to go ahead. Haj Ashraf, as he dropped. Solomon here says, I fault the woman regardless of the mistrust with her husband. One shouldn't hide the property. If all that is in the family interest, we shall all die one time, and we don't know who will go first. With such uncertainty, we ought to be open-minded. That's the first lady actually that has come out. Solomon, kudos to you on just in terms of that, bringing in a different view, because all the women seem to have bandwagoned onto the idea that is trust issues like Sophia Brown. These days, it is hard to trust people. It is not about men having other women. Women know it is very difficult to get money out of men, period. The 3 minutes to 9 o'clock. This is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, live on 75 W Radio and live on Umma Connected on YouTube and Zoom. Naima Kayira, your hand has been dying up. Sophia, I'll come to you later. 1 second. Naima Kayira, go ahead. Narongo, do you have a house I don't know about?
You are in trouble.
Naima Kayira, please unmute yourself.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I'm really getting confused here. Yes. I just want to give a simple example. When we give our children pocket money, so let's say we give them £10. And then with time, they use £2 and keep the rest, right? Then you find out they've bought, I'll give an extreme example because it would take really an intelligent child to think about it. But then a child then buys a cement mixer, for example, out of the pocket money. You are building and you rent out this cement mixer. When you come to find out that your child actually made you rent this cement mixer, are you going to be proud of this child for being smart? Or are you really going to be
angry with this child for using the money you gave him or her to then invest to something that has come actually to benefit you. I think that's where my argument is. Why would we look at that as investment?
I think you've really thrown yourself into a deep, because take this example then, using that very example, the cement mixer is just part of a process of building a house that I'm going to live in with the son or daughter and their mother and myself. The difference here is this one has no end to it, because the cement mixer has a limited time as to how long we're going to use it. The final product is what is in our hands that we're going to share. That's different as opposed to 7 years of paying rent to a house whose rent end does not even come into the picture. Actually, it gets worse, because even when the husband comes back and says, I have money, we can just get our own house, the resistance from the wife actually now takes it into where that's where the meanness comes in. That's where the selfishness comes in. If after these 7 years you've got the money, the husband didn't get to know, you get the house. Husband goes ahead and buys another house, buys the house, fits it, like in the same setting, beautifies the house, and then Christmas time submits the house. Everybody's happy except the wife who has been benefiting from that. That is no longer now an issue where you feel happy and proud with the person who has invested wisely on the money that you gave them. Would you say, Naima?
Me, I think obviously, like Haja said, there is too many details to this story. We haven't had the side of the woman, but I personally think she was smart because she was acting on the uncertainty. What if? Okay, and I think men were saying,
is the uncertainty about trust then? Is it a trust issue?
Yes. So and that's the gentleman there laid it really clearly that women have trust issues. That's something men should live with. You should really know that. Like you said, Sekade has told us that yes, somewhere there is a woman. So leaving that aside, I'm just saying that we haven't looked at the extended family. She had a brother. There must have been the stroke must have come to some shock. Maybe she's been threatened by her own brother in those terms. We don't know. She is obviously she has a stroke. She can't talk. We do not know her side of the story. But personally, I don't blame women for doing what they do. And in the end, like other ladies have said before, that money comes back to you. That money comes back to the family.
How does it come back to the family when it goes to the bank account of my wife, who until maybe she dies, that's the only time I can access it, if I even know about it?
It does come back. There will come a time.
How is what I'm asking?
For example, if one of you or the husband or whoever was investing more lost their jobs or wasn't able to earn as much as, this woman would not see you or your children starve. That money will come back, believe it or not. So men should really chill.
Thank you very much. Senoka here says there is no problem with women, wives, sisters, daughters owning property. There is no obligation for immediate disclosure of what either spouse has on the side. To the extent of trust and commitment issues being assessed, whatever is held by either spouse ultimately benefits the relationship directly or indirectly. And then in the event of one of the parts passing on, or the partners, the surviving spouse in Islamic law will benefit from this undisclosed income or saving or investment. There's no problem about that, Sasaro Gosenoga. I think the point you've missed here is the fact that this was not really about, it's not property that the wife had and the husband didn't know about. It is property that she acquired while she was receiving money from the husband, who was abroad sending money for rent. Money that if she intended to really have good intentions, she could have built a complete house with that money and then still be able to be in their own home. That was the point at which, so Ummu Raihan says she spends on the family in other ways, might even be setting up kids' trust. I'll go to the hands that are up. But
you did unmute me, Sheikh Kayira. I just want to make a quick contribution.
Who is that?
Is Hajat Semakula. You unmuted me quite a while ago. My contribution is we seem to see the man complaining about the rent that he was paying. Yeah.
No, it was not about the rent. It was about It was about finding out. It was about finding out.
Finding out that the woman has had a house. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing to me. Yeah, that means that the woman did not use money in a bad way. He is not complaining about the money he sent.
Yeah.
Us women are very good with working with money. You can use the money from the Kameza so well and end up with a mansion. So the woman was a very smart lady who made savings from the money that the man sent him. And even she was so smart that she even made him pay for the rent and not pay it somewhere else. So I don't see where the problem is really. And also having listened to some sheikhs saying to us as women who have lived with our husbands for years and years, and they're telling us that once your husband kicks the bucket, you have to find somewhere else to live. Even the house you live in doesn't belong to you. The most you can get is maybe 10 iron sheets. That is your eighth of the inheritance. So these mothers of your children have to secure their future and the future of their children. We don't mean that you are the only people who die first. We can also die. But when I die, as a husband, you will not have any changes in your life. Yeah, all you have is maybe another new wife, and you comfortably live in your house. Right. Something I can't do as a woman. I am really supporting my sister. As long as she didn't steal in broad daylight, she saved the money, built the house, and got all the money from the husband, and she was really looking after it very well.
Sarah, I hope Haj Ashraf was back here, but let me add into the saga, because I pushed the conversation, really tried to limit it to something that would be palatable and digestible for many of us. Let me just complicate it for you, and this is the reality around this particular story. Haj Ashraf was mentioning how this woman had trusted the sister and brother so much that they had actually started a sort of a company. So while this house, that the home house that they were renting was her personal property, they went ahead and established some schools. Some of them were one of the leading schools in Kampala, beautiful schools, sort of highly invested in. The woman was getting so much money from the husband. She managed not only to pay off the house and own it, she went ahead to, they invested in a school, a very powerful school. The lady was owning 70% of the shares in this particular school, one of the best schools in Kampala. This is not fiction, this is reality. 70%, and then between the brother and the sister, they were sharing 30% that was remaining. In fact, the story goes that when it got to the point of husband stopping the income that was going into the house, $1,500 per month was a lot of money. This money now, once she had cleared, because she was receiving the money after she had even bought the house, the money started going into investing into the school, and that was a lot of money. They built one of these best schools again around Naria Chisasi. There, the school was making a lot of money. So the brother now actually becomes gluttonous when he wants now to own this, because with 80%, in case the sister died and the other sister died, he would not only take the 30% that he was sharing with one sister, he would take the 100%. And because it was all done secretly without the knowledge of the husband, nobody would make a claim on this particular property. The dilemma with doing things in the secret is, in case hell breaks out, in case reservedly SHIT happens, you have nowhere to run to because you have not put it in the open. Would it not then help? Does that actually help, Sarah Semogene? Having had that, does it really improve on your appreciation of this woman, or do you still feel supportive of the woman?
I still do support her, but it's just that so much will be lost. Yeah, her nature of investment is not really very good. Yeah, because so much has gone outside to the other family members. If only she contained it and it was just for her and the children, that would be okay. Yeah, I think she
says, Rahma, your script didn't go as planned. Film star wasn't meant to die. And that's why you will never hear men with Dosh complaining. So what's the use of men making money when your wife can't enjoy it? That's the view. The way Andy was the hotel, it is called smart investing. You should even host seminars Sophia Murangwa. Sarah, thank you very much. Sophia Murangwa, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
Wa
barakatuh.
alaikum salam. This is getting very interesting.
Yes, unfortunately, we don't know what was going to what would have happened because she had a stroke. Maybe she was saving this money and she was going to let the husband know that they had some investments. We don't know.
If it was about the house, maybe you could even assume. But given the fact that we had Hajj Ashraf on and he came to try to clarify, the line was really poorly. But getting to the schools now, just added something to the story, just to bring out the fact that this wasn't even just a trust issue. This was
then she was greedy. Then
now
greedy. This
was outright greed if you think about it, because they had gone ahead and invested in the schools. The schools were making a lot of money, but even with that, she had 70% of the ownership all in her names, 30% to her brother and her sister. Not even the children who were actually mature children. Two of them were about to go to university. One was completing university. This is the kind of picture that you have. One was about to see their senior 6 examination. Now, even the children are not even brought into the picture, well, probably as part of the hiding. But you see the conspiracy that now gets into the brother who actually wants to kill her later on, after she had even got a stroke. Let's listen from Chance. Chance K, your hand is up. Go ahead, please. I know that's a man's voice. Chance K. Chance, your hand is up. If you can unmute yourself, please. Chance, you have the chance to unmute yourself. Yes, Chance, go ahead. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thanks, KK. It's a very challenging topic. I don't want to make judgments, but the ladies who are praising the fellow lady as smart, I think she was just sacrificed by her family side to squeeze money from the man's side, because the money was a cash cow. So they will say like, to fake Konga family yo. And neither did she know that these guys would override her. That's why she couldn't even include her own kids. So I don't want to make any judgment or to say who is right, who is wrong. I think the man should also evaluate himself, because it could have been a marriage for convenience, whereby there is I'm just there because I have kids, or I'm just there because I'm looking at the
Chance. These were lovebirds from university times. They went to medical school together. Once they graduated, they started like a small pharmacy in Wandegea. They started building up a chain of pharmacies. Before they knew it, husband had come to UK working for a big pharmaceutical company, and that's how he could afford a lifestyle of luxury, sending money back home while buying a house in London. This is the story.
Keke, how long was the guy abroad? For how long was he abroad?
For 10 years and 7 years.
Yeah, if it's for 10 years, any long distance relationship, it has a lot of ups and downs. And the fact that the man was away for 10 years, maybe he comes in every 3 months or once a year or twice, then the woman must have had a lot of pressure from the family.
Chance, here is the problem again. Man was working for a big pharmaceutical company, being able to buy a house in London, not your usual house, but a standard house, 5-bedroom house in one of the nice places, not the very posh places, but appropriate places. Wife would come whenever she wanted to, so there was no limit. Husband was traveling 4 times to Uganda for holidays, and wife could come in anytime there was a ticket that was available. So the issue of, yes, long distance, fine, but the issue, money was not really a problem to this family. And this is where the issue of greed, this is where the deeper you dig in, the more probably you start asking questions. And I think Fauzia puts it well in the chat room. She says the problem here was not her investing. The problem was trusting that her family would have her back. She should have trusted her kids if they were adults. The fact that she did not even include her kids, or at least on the investment in school, this is why her brother decides to kill her, and because he managed to kill the other sister. That's how the story goes. He managed to kill the other sister. He was looking to kill this sister, and he would take 100%. Nobody would make a claim because nobody knew about the investment.
Yeah, the thing is, KK, I don't know whether you determine a concentrated relationship by how long we've been together, where we've started from. We could have started from way back primary, but there is no value attachment. Here we are putting a price to the marriage, but there is no value. If there was a value, the woman would have said, well, I've come a long way with this man. Let me open up. That's why I said she must have been sacrificed by her family to squeeze money from the man's.
Well, I think from the chat room, you seem to be getting a lot of support. Catherine is saying, convince us he wasn't seeing anyone else. That is the women's suspicions always. Umutahani says there is no smoke without fire. So you are looking for the fire now while you've seen the smoke. Yes, Chas, please complete your point and then we'll go ahead. I'll bring other people into the conversation.
Yeah, to cut it short, I think, may I blame it to the man? I'll feel that the man took things for granted, you know? No matter how far you've moved with your wife or whatever wife, but you need to evaluate yourself. How valuable is this lady to me? The fact that I have kids with you, but how valuable are you to me?
But Chance, you've been listening to the conversation here from the start. You've seen how many women have come in support. Sarah Semogeri, strongly bashing in there. Sophia Murangwa, bringing Catherine, bringing Leila, all being supportive of this woman. It means that is the stance that is being taken by more and more women. What has happened to relationships to the point that, this is how we view things? Probably that's not how you would have thought it should be.
No, the new generation is now, ladies have control of finances more than men, I would say, but they don't feel that they have the control. They have the money, but I don't want to take it personal. They have the money, but they feel they're insecure to use it the way they feel like. They don't want to splash it in front.
Is that for the women, you mean?
Yeah, for the women. And that's why you see they do things underground. Even if you may have your wife and she will be like, she will trust the brother, what. But why don't you put out everything in black and white? So that insecurity will always cause such scenarios.
Now, the interesting thing, Chance, as I let you go and bring in other people into the conversation, Leila Naruvega, you're joining us all the way from Kampala, and probably you know someone who has done something similar. So I'll be coming to you, but the interesting thing around this is the fact that, that we start painting pictures. What would have happened, for example, if the wife had told the husband that, for example, I have my own property, or I own this property? What would it have done? For the women out there, would it harm to tell your husband, now that you have it, you managed to use the Kameza money and you got it? Would it harm? Is there any harm in getting the person of telling them that you have this? You as a man, if you had a woman telling you that, would you start relaxing and failing to pay the rent that you're supposed to be paying? Leila Naruvega, you joined us from Kampala. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much for joining the conversation all the way from Kampala. I know it's late at this time. I think it's 11.
You're welcome.
Have you had a story like this? Do you know anyone who has done something similar? Building a house in secret?
Yes.
You do?
Yes. But I wish you could allow me to speak in Luganda.
Oh, please go ahead. Yeah. This is a global conversation. Even Swahili comes on. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Kati waliwo omukyala nze gwe mmanyi. In fact naye abeera mu bitundu bya Kisaasi. Kati obedda ndowooza obayo goyogera nako.
Okay. Ab'Ekisaasi bangi.
Omukyala oyo later on yakirealizing nti omwami alinayo omukyala owokubiri. Omukyala nga ate ye yamuzimbira. Imagine. Nga yali yamuzimbira naye nga bano bulijjo bali mu muzigo basasula rent. Nga ate rent yali wa mukyala era. So it was a draw.
Naye nyumba gye bapangisa omusajja yawasayo omukyala omulala n'amuzimbira. Eno gye bapangisa naye nga nyumba ya mukyala
ye n'amuzimbira. Nga takimanyi nga basasula rent. Naye omukyala yagenda okukirealizinga nti omwami alinayo omukyala namba 2 naye nga yamuzimbira amaka.
Right. So you never draw ng'owulira otalina kye yasalwamu.
Yes.
Yeah, but do you think, would you feel happy ng'obadde oyina balo mwami engineer ali awo ngenda okuwulira ng'alina ennyumba gye yazi obanga mu nnyumba mupangisa mulowooza nti mupangisa ennaku zino ffenna tukola okola omwami akola ocontributinga ku ssente ez'awaka even mu mbeera eziriwo nga muli mu mbeera ey'okupangisa n'ojja osanga oluvannyuma n'okizuula nti ennyumba gye mubadde mupangisa gy'ocontributingako ennyumba ya mwami nga ssente abadde azingiza mu nsawo ye. How would that feel?
Nze nate tekyali nnumye singa abanga talina mukyala mulala naye obuzibu nedda kyayitoseka obuzibu bw'abaami ebiseera ebisinga bawasa abakyala oba bawasa omukyala n'atakugamba kati gwe n'obeeraawo n'omulumirirwa n'ogamba ye omwami wange nga buli koofuna ogamba omwami wange n'omulumirirwa nga buli kemufuna museevinga naye nga kooseevinga naye akatwala wa mukyala oli omulala. Kati sisita wange ono bw'abanga yasala amagezi n'agamba anze kanseevinge nga nziza wabbali teyabba n'aseevinga nti singa obudde bukyenkya ku makya omwami ono n'avaawo abakyala balinga gye balinga ffenna yakola she abaana bange bayimiridde batya kakati naye n'akola ekyo kyakoze ate n'amuyambako nti essente omwami ze yali yonoonedde ewalala bazisasula mu rent ate ne baseevinga.
Kakati omukyala wa Fawzia agamba bw'ati Leila mu chatroom again to answer your question Sheikh, insecurities don't just come from nowhere. Our men have a habit of laying back when they realize that you are financially stable. Stop looking after the kids, family and everything in general, and that's why women are behaving the way they behave.
Omukyala agenda okikola bakimanyi nti nno omwami singa amugambako nti ninayo ke nnina n'ebyokukola akendezaamu agamba ye nnina omukyala omukozi kati naye natandika okukola ng'ate akolerera famire eri endala.
Obuzibu buli wano Leila singa tubadde ku nnyumba eno ey'amaka probably katugezeeko kubanga abeeteeka mu mbeera ey'okukitegeera omukyala ono yakomaawo went ahead ne bazimba amasomero ag'amaanyi mu Kampala era agali mu bitundu byeyo najjeera n'alya kisaasi. Essomero erimu ku g'amaanyi gano gansasula miliyoni 3 miliyoni mmeka. Essomero lye balizimba omukyala ng'alina 70% kubanga yali aleeta omusimbi omungi ng'alina mwannyina ne mutoowe bano ne batwala 30% nga ze bagabana era ebimu ku bintu ebigenda okumussa ng'ate amaze n'okufuna stroke mu mwannyina ogenda okwagala okumutuga ng'amanyi nti bw'amugjawo agenda kutekinga 100% of the shares kubanga yasobola okutta mutoowe mwannyina omuto n'amutta n'ayagala gye ate n'ono ng'ayagala okweddiza embaali because 100% shares yabadde ng'azitwala ne bakadde baabwe bennyini abazaala abano omukyala ne mwannyina. Nobody knew about this. Kino bakikola nga arrangement yabwe separate. So assuming now nti ono abadde akikoze mu mutima ogugga nti ali mu kweterekako ka investment omukyala ono mu 70% yateekamu n'abaana okuba nti bagenda okubenefitinga mu kintu kiri ekintu gye kyabikira ero oba tino okukifiirwa kyonna guno si mulugube kuba tibukyalina mululu kuba gufuuse mulugube. Would you agree?
Maybe abaana bo yali yakikola nga kyakyama ng'akimanyi nti singa n'akiteeka mu lwatu n'abaana tebajja funako kubanga olaba shey obudde gye bugenda gye biggweera ng'abantu bano bazze ne bakayanira ebyobugagga ng'abaana bamaliriza nga bali mu bbanga nga tebalina yadde kasheya ke balina naye maybe kino ekintu ekiri mu kintu ekyekyama probably omukyala abeera ku safe side nti singa nzaala abaana bange oba abaana bange bennina bali ku safe side nti bagenda kubaako ne kasheya ke balina akatamanyikiddwa just in case bukya ku makya nga ebintu byonna babitutte waliwo ke yeesigalizzaako okuluwuzi.
Okay. Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much. To remind you, this is the Global Community Conversation. The program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, live on 75 W Radio. I am live on Twitter, actually, via Umma Connected. Now, when I was looking for you from the start of the program, there seems to be now a playback in what is your take on this? Shams,
you have echo.
Hello, Shams. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hey, you have been on from the start of the conversation, and I would like to hear from you. You've heard from the men and women on the conversation. It's a heated conversation, an interesting conversation. What's your take?
Naam, thank you very much. And thanks to everyone who has contributed to this noble communication. The conversation is really, really very touching. And I believe a number of us have learned a few, or if not much, from this. But what I can say is that we are all right and we are all wrong. What I can say right now is that right is right, even if no one goes by it. And wrong is wrong, even if everyone goes by it. So in our instincts, deep down our hearts, we all understand that whatever is being done wrongly will remain wrong. What the lady did was actually wrong. There is a sheikh who spoke before me. We cannot live our lives claiming to be Muslims when we can't go by the best example. So to bring sanity to our homes and our marriages, we need to keep reflecting to the best examples we were given. We were given the best examples, and these are from our prophet, our beloved prophet, and his wives and the companions. So we have a very good example to learn from. We can't keep taking our families for granted and taking these examples for granted. The community we are living in is getting wilder and wilder from each and every passing day due to the fact that men have ignored, if not surrendered, their responsibilities. And these have made our wives or our mothers to turn into things that we don't actually really understand very well. So insecurities have become insecurities. Mistrust is the order of the day, and love has faded away from our homes. That is why we need to go back to our roots and see what our best example taught us, and how we ought to live our lives.
How do we do that? How do we do that?
We need to keep reflecting on each and every aspect of our life and compare it with what our beloved prophet did and how he treated each and every scenario. Our sheikh gave a very good example of our mother Khadija. Khadija was a wealthy woman, but on top of being a wealthy woman, she was taking each and everything that she earned out of her sweat back to the prophet to decide what to do with it. So if we change the nature, you see, fighting nature is like releasing a stone when you're holding it in air and then you expect it to go up. Gravity will force it down. Okay, so we shouldn't fight nature. If man was given their position to lead and bring order in the family, let the man play that role. Men have failed to play that role. That's why our women are behaving the way they're behaving. So I call on men to play their role, be the leaders in their homes, and give love and affection. And then our wives will also fall in line. Let me maybe conclude with this one example, Sheikh. There is a story I had from a very close friend of mine about the lady who welcomed the laws that were introduced in Britain about the division of a property on following a separation of two married people. This lady was very, very, very happy that this law was enacted, and he went ahead and used that chance to steal from the husband whom he had just wedded. So after stealing all that money, he set up an empire, and he also got children, a boy and a girl, and then he passed on all the wealth to their son, to her son actually. But to cut the story short, that lady witnessed what he did to the husband in her lifetime, because the boy whom he had passed on the wealth to also got cheated by another girl using the very law. So wrong is wrong. Whether you like it or not, wrong will remain wrong. Let's try to, my advice is, let us do what we have to do in the way we have to do it. Let the men play their part and their role in the family, and let the women also fall in line. But the most important thing above all is let's fear Allah. Let's fear Allah. At the end of the day, these are all worldly things. It won't really gain us anything if we emerge successful as we wish in this life and then end up in hell. You know, this life we live for maximum 100 years. But think about the bigger picture. Think about the hereafter. That is the ultimate goal. That is the ultimate goal. So even if the man wrongs you in this worldly life, but you stood by your principles, trust me, you will emerge victorious. Allah has a way of guiding the people who stick by him. He has ways of guiding them. There are children who are brought up in very, very poor families, but they are guided and they emerge to be successful people. And there are those who are brought up in a lot of wealth, but still they fail just because there is no mercy of Allah.
All right,
So Sheikh, allow me
I'm
submit.
just leaving you, Barakallahu fikum. Very brilliant points there raised. I'm just leaving you so that I can bring in more people in the conversation. It's nearly 30 minutes to the top of the hour. We have 31 minutes to have our conversation. Brilliant conversation ongoing now. Remember, on Facebook, you can actually go to my page. Just look for 75 W Radio and you can follow the conversation live, or you can just go to YouTube or join us on Zoom on Umma Connected, where you can be part of this global community conversation. Today, we are speaking betrayal, but just one bit of what looks like betrayal. From the sound of it, from the force of the ladies, it doesn't seem like it is betrayal. Leila Vega says, when a woman is sharp and wise, she's called a thief. When a man does the same, he's called a good husband, which Naima agrees, saying thank you. Men need to take their crown back. Sophia says, nowadays, give everything to some men, you will be in big problems. Men of this world have suffered. I'm coming to Umma Connect and then I'll come to Fauzia, whose hands have been up. Umma Raihan says, Abasajja Kasta Bade Teresa, they will not have any wahala from women. Umma Connected, come on, Zaid Mahbub. Go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
barakatuh. Thank you very much. You are appearing as Umma Connected, both of you, so I couldn't tell who was who. Yes, your take, you must be burning. You've been listening to the goings on. The ladies bashing us left, right, and center. Your take.
Mine is just a question. It's not a contribution. In my head, I'm thinking, given that most of us are living in the diaspora and we share rent, most couples, we don't, the men are not providing as it is in Gadin way government, you provide shelter and whatever as a husband. Our earnings mean that we are forced to share the bills, we are forced to share the rent and stuff like that. Now, my take is, assuming it was the man who owned the house, and I don't reveal it to my wife, and then I tell her, it costs $1 million, I'm going to bring 500,000, and you bring 500,000. What would the ladies feel about sharing a rent? Just sharing. Scenario the husband is probably paying the 1 million alone, but this is 50-50.
Yes.
But the man owns the house and is telling the woman, to rent here 1 million, bring 500K, I bring 500K. What would be the take for the women?
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Actually, I think I did flag it, but since we have Fauzia's hand, let's start with her and then we'll throw it to the rest of the ladies here. Fauzia, go ahead. Assalamu alaikum. Joining us all the way from Manchester and Usama in London. This is just giving you a gist of how global this conversation is. We've already had someone from New York. I'm sure you have someone else in Boston at the moment. Yes, Fauzia, you've had, it's the husband who has been in charge. You are contributing both. You and husband contribute to a rent, which you later on find it is actually a house that belongs to your husband, who never told you about it. How would that feel?
The thing is, I've not yet made my mind up as to how I feel about this whole situation. Why?
Oh, no, I've just given you a scenario, Fauzia, which is, it is this scenario, but we've just reversed it. Here is shared responsibility. You're friend, only to find that your husband is the owner of the house to which you've been paying all this money. How would that feel?
the thing is, where has all this other money been going? We've been paying rent 50-50, okay? Like the previous speaker has just said. I would want to know where the money has been going. Now, she said this money that he's been making me pay.
All right.
The
Yes.
house ours, his, yeah. Where has this money gone? What has he done with it? And I guess this is where the problem is for all of us right now. Because first of all, let me make this very clear. This woman did not steal. She made a very bad decision and bad judgment on her part. Okay? This very thing that this speaker has just come out and said, the previous speaker, for me, it's the same situation as a man who goes and marries a woman and keeps quiet for 20 years, only for him to die, and this woman turns up with photocopies of this man. Okay? This is the same thing to me.
Yeah.
You understand? There is not much difference. So let's not all act holy. The other thing here is, these other people who are coming and saying, let's all behave like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet was very the Prophet was very forthcoming. When he decided he had reasons. You understand?
And you are saying the men of today don't have reasons when they
the men of today, you will cough and he will say, you understand?
Would that not be a reason? It might be a cough that is long lasting.
Oh, please. Sheikh.
Yes.
These men of today, the things they do to their wives.
I'm listening.
I can assure you, even here in the UK, we have men. They cannot handle the one wife they have. They can't handle. But when they step on that aeroplane, my friend, and they land in Uganda, they want to marry the whole of Uganda.
Because there is care in Uganda.
We also have
while you are traumatizing them.
Let me tell you something. We are in a situation, this generation of ours, and maybe this is where I disagree with people who compare our generation to that of the Prophet, this peace be upon him. The women of those days, right now, this is a conversation we had last time. Right now, you come back home, you have to cook, you have to clean, you do everything for your man. While he's sitting over there, watching TV, watching football, now Olympics. They don't come to help you. You understand? Then they go to work, the little money that they are giving you, the 100 pounds, you've gone and built a seat for rent. So that's when I go to Uganda, I'm not going to tell him, you know what, my mom wants a domestic. Then they are saying we are stealing. Is that really stealing, Check?
Fauzia, I'll just take it back to the question that I asked you, which you haven't been able to answer. We are in the world now, today's world. You are both contributing to a house, to house rent that you think you're actually paying a landlord, only to find out that all the money that you've been contributing together. Umma Connected here was saying, why should the woman contribute? It should be the man to provide. Yes, but the world that we are living in is, the realities that we are living in. We both contribute, and we are creating that scenario. Now you end up ultimately finding after 7 years of paying rent that has to be pushed and paid on a specific day, is all money that has been going to the man. How does that feel? How would that feel for you? Because I'd like a straight answer now without, dealing that.
Let me put it this way. Check. When I get that money, me as a person, let's say if it had been me who had built that house, I would have put it back into my home. I'm sure that's what that woman did. she must have put it back into her children for them to look good.
No, she
You know,
didn't.
when we ask men for
Invested
money,
it elsewhere. Yeah.
when your wife says, Sheikh, can I have, let's say, money? Or you're going to give her 200 pounds for the week. Are you going to ask her to give you accountability of where that money has been going? Some of you men are very stingy. Eh?
Fauzia, you have failed to answer my simple question. How would it feel? That is my question, and then I'll just widen the conversation. How would you feel 7 years later after paying rent to only find that this money that you've been paying has been going to your husband who owns the house?
Yes. I won't feel anything. Serious, I won't feel anything.
Fauzia, you've died in your own movie. Let's go to the United States. Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much. Catherine is back. Catherine is back.
Where was the money going?
You have failed to answer my question. You've really gone around the question. Catherine, welcome back to the conversation. And I'll just ask you the same question that Usama Kasuja did ask, which is 7 years of paying rent, you come back to realize now the house that you've been paying for, contributing both husband and wife, ultimately, house belonged to the husband, and who never mentioned anything, and you find out your own way. And I can see Hajara, your hand is up as well. Let's hear from
we have to agree that the response a woman is going to have is different from that of a man.
Why?
We women are, we're prone to, we're able to, we're able to lay down when it comes to these things. Even just think that your husband has owned this house. A woman may complain. Let's be honest, we may complain, but at the end of the day, we're going to accept and say, you know what, it's my husband's house, I'm now there. Whereas it's different with a man, because I think when it comes to men, they look at it as an abomination for a woman to own something without the man knowing. So again, I'll bring it back. Our responses are going to be way different from each other. The woman is more accepting than a man. Again, like I said, we're going to be mad for a certain amount of time, but then we also come back and look at the family. What family do we have? Because if the man has accepted, okay, the man has the house, he has had the house for all that long, the woman has contributed the money towards it. A woman is going to look at it as, okay, this house is there, it's going to benefit me and my children. We may look at it and we may ask and find out who do you have as the beneficiary of this house if anything happens. And in most cases, and from experience and things I've seen, most women would want to have their children put as part of who's going to have the, as ownership to that house. Whereas a man, whereas a man will want to have his own name there just by himself.
Right.
You get it? It's like my house, because again, like I said, I think men find it so hard. You want to be the macho man. Men love being macho. So for a woman to have that property, it's an abomination. But for me, I'm going to prove that I'm the man in this house. So again, depending on the relationship, how is he going to take? How is she going to take? But again, I'll take it. A woman will not react like a man. With a man, it will be like the whole world is ended. So that's how I'm going to conclude with mine.
Catherine, now we're sort of looking at for the way ahead. We've been throwing the blame on woman, man, woman, man, woman, man. Now, coming to the realization after such revelations have been made, of course, trust is the first victim in a situation like this. How do you mend the fences? How do you take it from here? How do you live the life beyond this particular point? Because we seem to create the picture that, the wound or the scar, the fresh wound has burst. We are dealing with the impact of this particular moment. How do we pick up the pieces to sort of continue to have a relationship?
It will come back to communication and what are they going to accept and how are they going to build it. And with the communication also comes what was the relationship these two had before this, everything came into light. So are they going to have a common ground or is it going to be an argument? And we're not going to, it's something that's not going to happen overnight. This may take a process, you begin speaking again. It's just like, the mourning process, you're in denial. Why did my husband do this? Then you have to go through the whole phase. This is a couple that may also do what? May need therapy because then, again, let's accept trust was lost within that small amount of time, but you want to build it through mutual grounds. Have a therapist speak to this too. let them begin building. And, again, maybe there are other things that have been happening in the marriage that, drew the man. We're talking about the man now, which could have also happened to the woman. So they just have to get that to that ground where they all accept that, okay, something happened and let's put it on the ground, let's work on it. And
Catherine, and actually, you mentioned therapy, which I find quite interesting because under normal circumstances, just to say, Hajara, I can see your hand up. Rashida, your hand is up. I'm coming to you. Catherine, you talk about therapy here, which is the issue surrounding, there is trauma. There is actually trauma. You can imagine after 7 years, we did a quick calculation here, $1,500 per month amounted to $126,000 that had actually gone to this. This is actually several houses in real life. There has to be trauma, and therefore counseling would come in. But in a relationship, because trust has been hurt, how do you, because what sort of format, what sort of form should the counseling take to sort of bring back the confidence that has suffered in this particular situation?
When people are married, they actually have somebody they trust. Sometimes it's a family member, there is a friend that you can bring into play. It starts with that. Communication, again, it comes back communication. What are you going to discuss with this person? And how is this person going to help you? By the time you get to that point, again, it's just like marriage. When a marriage is falling apart and you want to rebuild it, you have somebody you trust that you're going to speak with, but knowing what you know now and what you've understood along the way, you begin thinking about it. Maybe it's not helping us because this is somebody who has a mutual, it's a mutual friend that we bring in our problems. So you decide to get somebody that's out there that has nothing, that knows nothing about you, and air out all your problems. Sometimes, even if you're speaking to this friend, you're not able to bring in everything that you've been thinking about. Again, like you said, it's trauma. It's traumatizing because if somebody's...
It's very traumatizing. I can just imagine that situation. Catherine, Hasfaka Suja is saying, if you truly love someone and you progress together, these men want women that are always begging them. That says Fauzia. Sumini Salim Ratisha Afra says, in this modern world, under normal circumstances, one would be disappointed, but look on the plus side. Are the children well cared for? That's from Fauzia. Catherine, your last word, and then I'll go to Hajara and then Rashida, and I can see iPhone is up. Catherine, your last word on this.
Okay, my last word is always going to come back to communication. Because if you have, if you're communicating and you're agreeing, you're able to watch, you're able to go build more grounds, and that, grounds for trust, grounds for love. You can build everything, but then you have to communicate, because without communication, you're not going to be able to get where you want to be. So the two have to accept on that. And again, I'll say, therapy, when it comes to things like that, works for couples like that. But on the other side, the women are more accepting than the men when it comes to things that change, things that happen that way. So those are my last words.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Catherine, all the way in New York in the United States of America. Hajara, welcome to the conversation. Your hand has been up for a while. Let's try and decipher through this. We've been hearing a lot about the complaint. I'll just take one point from you just regarding your reaction, but then try to find solutions, because we are already in trouble. We want to deal with the problem. Hajara.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Nice to have you in the conversation.
Thanks for a wonderful topic. I have my feelings are mixed, because first of all, I would say kudos to the woman for being that clever.
Really?
And then I will ask a question. What pill was this man under for him not to notice? Because if this is your wife, really, you're married, you should be paying attention.
Hajara, men don't dig. That's our weakness. I think we don't dig. We don't know that. And this man was in UK, remember? He was living in UK, working with this big pharmaceutical company. The wife was back looking after business.
But I'm assuming that he was going back to
back and forth.
Yeah. So he was, it was a long distance relationship, but he would still have paid attention. Little things. You can hide something for so long. So there was a little bit of him knowing that there's something going on, but just taking a blind eye. Because that is a lot of money. I don't know how many years it's happened, but that's a lot of money.
7 years it was.
That's a lot of money for somebody to just ignore. You lose £5 and you go ballistic, later on, all of that. But on the woman's part, she was clever, because the way we see things is different from how men see things. Because in our heads, we are working it out like, oh, this is for the family. You know, I'm bringing back into the family. It is a difficult one because it's wrong.
Because I'm sure, Hajara, I've seen you have been around like since the start of the conversation. You had the addendum that I made to the conversation, which was this woman did not just stop at owning this particular home. She was also owning a school, a big business, a big school business where she was owning 70%. She had not even put her own children as far as, and in the conversation we get to know later that the lawyer who had helped them, actually where the finances were going through the bank, the person who had handled their business is the one who knows about the 70% and the 30% being shared between the sister and the other brother, rather the brother and the other sister. And she was owning 70%. She had not even put her own children as the beneficiaries. So in case of anything happening, like it came to happen, she ended up with a stroke, unable to speak, only communicating via sign language. The only way would be for the brother to try to get rid of her, as he managed to get rid of her, of his own sister, younger sister, and he wanted to take everything. This woman now, in her cleverness, in her, in her efforts to try to build this little empire, whatever the interest in terms of the children and the husbands later for the family benefit, everyone was about to lose this if she had just died.
I call that karma. That's God's work at hand, because what she did was wrong. One way or the other, she's been paid for what she did. When you get married to somebody, you're doing it in front of Allah. And now you go and distrust this person. It is clever, she's putting it back to the family, but she did something that the way I may try to equate it is she got paid back.
Yeah, that was karma. Right.
Karma.
So Stella Wanderema here says, if I cannot feel comfortable to disclose my financial affairs to him, then there is no point of me staying with him. No point of developing a fraudulent mindset because of sticking to someone I do not value. Hajara, looking forward, how do you put together, how do you start piecing together these broken pieces as a result of the kind of distrust that came out of this? Hajara? Hajara, are you there? Okay, I'll come to Rashida while we try to get Hajara, because I wanted to hear so much the way forward. How do you start rebuilding these broken pieces? How do you start putting together this sudden puzzle? Rashida, you have the mic. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the conversation.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Just remind our listeners and viewers, this is the Global Community Conversation. The program is Come. Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, live on 75W Radio and live on Umma Connect on YouTube and on Zoom, where we are at. Rashida, you have the mic. Your take.
So it's really unfortunate that the woman has actually got a stroke at this point in time, and it's really sad.
Unable for us to speak to her and ask her.
Exactly. and like the Baganda would say, Tosala Guakawala. Do they say Tosala Guakarenzi? Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, Tosala Guakarenzi, Ngatonala Guakawala. So really, I think we're being one-sided here. And on the other, because this woman literally cannot speak for herself. So two things, I'm going to use a very small analogy, right? Women have babies, right? The pain we go through to have that baby equates to so much pain that unbelievably, we come out of labor and we go and have another child, right? So if it was so bad a pain that we could not bear to have it anymore, we would probably stick to one child and never have another child again. That is
hold it there. As you mentioned, just something came to mind. In Kinyarwanda, we've got a proverb in Kinyarwanda which says, whenever someone gives birth and someone comes to visit you, they always tell you, "Subirayo na mahwariyo." You go back, there are no thorns. You've gone through the labor pains which you are talking about being unbearable, and yet you still go back and have another one. A woman would say, with this pain, I won't go back, and yet the following day they're already back, ready to have another baby.
So, so this is exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm trying to say that if the woman can go through such pain, and at the end of the day, it's a very simple analogy, but actually it does make sense. And at the end of the day, we go back to have another and another. What am I trying to say? That sometimes in the end, if that woman, for all the intentions she had, unfortunately, we can't speak with her. She probably had good intentions at heart, right? It's exactly like someone else mentioned at the beginning. When the Ugandans live as Akameza, right? Sometimes they could live 5,000, is it 5,000 shillings? Now they come with 5,000 shillings, but they happen to come back with a meal on the table. Do they ever query or ask, Banange, was this 5,000 enough for the money for the food that I'm eating? That is one. Two, if that woman at the end of the day had the good intentions at heart, and once it's all found out and it's all exploded, but the intentions actually come up to be that, you know what, this is what I was using the money for, this is the plan I had in place, this is A, B, C, D, and 70% is actually our fund, our property, this is what I've been doing. I feel that actually that I think I would salute the woman and say, well done you, because at the end of the day, we don't know what the woman had in mind. We don't know what is on the other hand. If all the information has been given to the husband and said from the lawyer to say, everyone, and it equates to all of you guys as the beneficiaries of this amount of property and ABCD. What I know, it's painful for the man to actually take it on board to say, how dare you do ABCD? Like we go through the labor pain, at the end of the day, there is joy at the end of the tunnel by holding your baby. So
Rashida, here is where I have a problem, because at least about the home in which they were living, we do not have confirmation on that. What we are sure about, though, is about the school business, where 70% ownership to her, 30% to her sister and her brother. And the children are not named as beneficiaries. The very reason that almost leads to her getting killed once she's had a stroke, because the brother is trying to make sure he can get out of the way quicker and he can take over the 100%. So the effort that is being mentioned here, which is about the benefit going to the husband, or even to the children or to the husband as a consequence, might not arise. We are not sure about the house at home, and that's why actually, because she's still in hospital, we are unable to know what exactly is going on, and therefore that limits our ability to know, what's going on in that particular sense. But I get your point. So going forward, how do you mend these broken pieces? How do you mend these broken hearts?
I feel that they could have a platform to actually mend this. I think moving forward, I think there's always a good explanation from everyone's side why they've done A, B, C, D. Unfortunately, for the man, how dare you invest 7 years of a relationship, of a marriage, of the funding, and you actually don't know where you're going? Are you paying enough attention, or are you sidetracked elsewhere? That actually you're too much occupied elsewhere. You can't, no wonder that happened, that you can't even concentrate on what the other woman is doing, regardless of whether you have a woman or no. And if you're a Muslim, it goes back to show, like Mufti Menk, I did listen to Mufti Menk saying recently, abasajja be Uganda, you get omukazi omu nga tomanyi mu like tomanyi, you can't even fend for the first woman, let alone get another woman. Does it make sense?
Yes, it does, yeah.
So I think, but all in all, I think if God helps and the other woman actually starts to speak up, perhaps everything would become clear and have the good intentions I have.
Rashida, thank you very much. I'm only stopping because of time. 3 minutes to the top of the hour. I have 2 hands up. And Hajara, I did get your last word, which I'm allowing you to put in, and then I'll go to iPhone and then finish with Umma Connected in case there is nobody else. Hajara, we're looking for the way forward. How do you mend the pieces? How do you put back this relationship?
Way forward on this. It's unfortunate that the lady is in the state she's in at the moment, because it won't be fair on her. But it will take a very, very religious person on the man's side to be able to take that in and understand, to want to work these things out. Like Sister Rashida said, there will be questions. Was the man preoccupied already somewhere else, not to pay attention to what was going on here? So it will take somebody with a lot of patience. I personally, I don't see myself
being able
wanting to work things out. I'll be done.
You'll be done. Barakallah. Thank you very much, Hajara. iPhone, I'm coming to you, and then we'll go to Naima Kayira, wrap up this conversation. iPhone, you have the mic.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You seem to have an echo. I don't know whether you have two gadgets at the same time.
Am I clear now?
Yes, you're much clearer now. Yes, you've had this whole bashing of men and the support for the lady. Your own take, please, and then we'll look for the way forward.
Sheikh, nja kusaba njogere mu Luganda.
Kale, katulusindi.
Nsobola okuttaanya ensonga gye njagala okuttaanya.
Oziwulidde olabye ekizimba gye kikutte ne kitegeeza okwabikira. First of all, mu bufunze mpulira reaction yo, then tulabe ku ngeri y'okusobola tutya okuwumba okuzzaawo embeera eno.
Okusookera ddala wabuuziza omukyala kikyayinza ayisibwa atya bw'abeera nga azudde ensonga eyo. Ku lwange kirimu ebintu bibiri. Okusookera ddala bwe nkimanya nti omukyala gwe mbadde embeera naye ye nannyini nnyumba gye tubaye tusasula, kijja kumpisa, nja kubeera disappointed ng'omuntu mu buntu okubeera nti munnaye gwe mbadde naye ebbanga lino lyonna kino kye tubaddeko. However, my disappointment ejja kutulibwamu emirundi ebiri. Nsobola okugikomya okumpi senga mbeera nti mbadde struggling ebbanga lyonna naye ng'ate naye ayina role gy'abadde aplayinga ku family nti oba abaana ayamba okulabirira naki. Naye senga mbeera nga mbadde neetakula okusasula renti ono ate nga naye abaana era buli kimu akirekera nze despite okubeera nti struggling, then disappointment yange ejja kweyongerako. However, eri esoose ejja kukoma weekomye olw'okuba nja kuba nkimanyi nti at the end of the day byonna byakola ne sente zaafuna era zikomawo waka ne ziyamba abaana abange be nakola ki be nnina naye. So nze ku lwange bwento bwe nja okubeera
akati way forward tuziza tutya embeera
kati embeera eyo then nga sinagenda ku way forward, njagala nsooke ndiyakitingeko ku bakyala ababadde bagamba nti omusajja abeera wa ye abeera ali occupied nnyo okubeera nti tasobola kulaba bintu
nti there is a problem. Yes.
Ebintu bino ntera nnyo okugamba abantu nti what a man can do, a woman can do even better. Nti omusajja bw'abeera ng'asobola okugenda n'azaala abaana n'otamanya emyaka 2 n'ogenda okutegeera ng'amaze nakufa nga baleesa abaana wali nti bano nno abaana nabo babadde bamufu. Lwaki gwe olowooza nti omukazi tasobola kukola kintu n'azimba nnyumba n'akola bintu ng'omwami tamanyi? So tuleme kwekubira oba kwesulika kulowooza nti omusajja ajja ayina kumala kubeera occupied nnyo ng'ayina ebimututte obwongo alyoka abeere nti tasobola kulaba mukazi kikyakola. Nze ku lwange ekyo nno sikkiriziganya nakyo. Mmaliriza nga ngamba nti omusajja kyasobola okukola bw'abeera nti omusajja asobola okukikola n'akola ebintu nga tomanyi, then lwaki gwe tosobola? Kubanga at the end of the day ffenna tuli bantu. So
way forward, how do we mend this? And just before you do, and I've seen some people that are new faces to the conversation. I always like to have them come in. I know the time, we are over our time now. Before I bring in Naima Kayira, please, Millie, you will allow me, I'll give you just a quick word, Rahila, before you go. I've seen a couple of people that are new. I'll just give you like a minute each at least to sort of hear from you, because as you've seen, this is a global community conversation and we all get a chance to have our say. Millie, get ready. When the time comes, I'll bring you on. I've seen Kauthar. I've seen some new faces that I would like to hear from. At least you've been listening to the conversation. I wouldn't want you to just leave without saying anything. So, iPhone, you are summarizing. How do we mend to
Embeera eyo ndowooza bw'emala okubeera ng'esajjuse, omanyi ebiseera ebisinga ebintu kasita kibeera nti kimaze okwabika, ndowooza kiba kisingako kutuula ku mmeeza ne mwogera ng'abantu abakulu.
Waliwo abuuza ssebo mbu iPhone ssebo ennamba yo ku mobile money ereeta mannya ki? Nga bw'ogitaddemu bakolera. Enda mu maaso ssebo tuwuze.
Ennamba ereeta mannya ga Khalid Ayub ssebo.
Ogiwaddeyo? Okay, yes please. Then I'll go to the newbies.
Kutuula ne mutegeeragana ensonga ne mwogera, kubanga at the end of the day ekintu ekisinga obukulu mu relationship zino communication na kwogerezeganya. Abantu ffenna tukola ensobi. Oyinza okubeera nti omukyala we yakolera ekintu ekyo alina bye yali alowooza oba ng'alina bye yali alaba mu maaso naye ate ne bibeera nti tebyatuukiriza. So ndowooza engeri gye tuba tuyinza okukizza kutuula ne mugezaako okukkaanya ne mutegeeragana then ne mulaba way forward.
Barakallahu fikum. So I'm just leaving you because of time. We are 4 minutes over our time, but I'll try to get all the newbies, at least about 4 people, just a minute to sort of see how do we mend these broken pieces. Naima Kayira, you have a minute, please. Go ahead. How do we mend? She's ball protecting. She's protecting her ball. Yes.
Kati nze kyembadde njagala commentingako was the
just stick to English, please, at least you can.
Was the 70%. The 70% you talked about the business. We understand these people were jointly owning this business. So it could have been from her profit. So she would have invested her own money in her own other businesses. Tetwandimu criticizing the new kwecho.
The problem is she's in hospital now and we can't speak to her, but yes, you're right. Go ahead, please.
Kati, way forward, nze nsobije nalaba mukino ekintu in what that man did. When he went and sought advice from a friend who actually told him the reality of how women think and how women, that's how we are. And it's not mistrust. Honestly, you can be with someone for 20, 40 years, but in us, not for emergency. Anytime you think there will be something, and you don't want to be got off guard. I think that's the best way to put it. The change is that guy should have gone back and sat the wife before going to buy other houses and doing this, and sat her down and really talked about it. I think that this lady would not even have ended up in this command wherever we are and whatever is happening. So I think communication is very crucial.
If someone for 7 years has been taking money and never mentioned, because if it was communication, they were already communicating. The husband was coming. She was flying to London to come in and see him in these odd visits. Really, if nothing really was even pointed towards that, you see the kind of disappointment that comes to the man, like putting yourself in that particular situation.
If that lady had got that money and chopped it or gave it out to other men, that's where the problem would be. Naye yazimbe nyumba jemusulamu, so there is no issue. Me, I don't even see why there is
continuing to pay for what you have built. That's the issue.
Exactly. So that's what
the reason we build, Naima, the reason we build is for us to get out of this whole idea of having to rent. Yet you are supportive of the fact that this person could go ahead, continue renting 7 years later when we have been able to build.
But have you asked yourself as well, why was the brother the one getting this rent? Why do you think the man was going to? We don't, like they've said, we do not know the other story. We have families that have put their daughters or their sisters on gunpoint, or family. We do not know. But what I am saying, whatever a woman does, it's always for their family. There's nothing like a woman can do, let me buy and build skyscrapers and that money is mine. They always think about their children. They always think about the future. That's
right.
what
Thank you very much, Naima. I'm just going to stop you there because just so that I can bring in the newbies, at least we hear 1 minute. Millie, you're one of the people that I've seen in that has come in for the first time into this conversation. Yeah, you have a minute, please, just to give us your own take. How do we come out of this particular saga? You've been listening to the conversation. Thank you very much for joining the program, by the way. Hi, Millie. Hello, Millie.
Hi, Sheikh.
Oh, hello there. How are you?
Sorry, I can't speak right now.
Oh, are you at work?
No. I have
Yeah.
it around.
I beg your pardon?
I couldn't resist to follow the topic. I can't remember probably. But
All right. I think the voice has dropped. I don't know if you're saying you're unable to communicate.
Yes.
All right. Okay, then. Thank you very much for tuning in. Rahila, I'll come to you. Just a quick sort of 1 minute so that we wrap up. We're already over our time, 9 minutes in. Rahila, you've been listening to the conversation. I'd like to hear your take. How do we mend these broken pieces? Rahila? Oh, sorry, I sort of muted you again. You can unmute yourself again, please. All right.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Well, I came in a bit. Thank you so much for the topics of discussion this evening. They've been very inciting, mashallah. I came in actually a little bit late, like towards the end of the discussion. However, having heard from a few speakers, Hajjat Naima mentioned a point of women always having the interest of their children and family at heart. I think, that's really very important because despite any situation, women always, think about the future. Women might oversee things that maybe the husband doesn't see. So they would want to secure certain things. However, though, I go back to the point of communication. One gentleman pointed out the idea of being able to openly communicate. I think that's really very vital. So for me, my take is onto communicating with each other, being open with each other, because I think secrets, whichever they are, or if it is all also about looking out for our children and securing their future, it is always very important to air things out and then have an open conversation about things. So that's my take.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for joining the conversation. Remember, it's always Tuesday, 8 to 10 p.m. Abu Bakr, please, if you can unmute yourself. Abu Bakr, you're there. Just a quick minute to get your takeaway from this conversation. Abu Bakr. Right, I'll go to Stella. Stella Wanderema. Stella, welcome to the program. You've been an ardent listener, follower to the conversation. I'd like to hear your take on today's topic. Or what's your takeaway from the topic tonight? How do we mend these pieces?
Well, my take is, if she did not trust them, I don't like hiding things from a man I'm with. Having to hide my bank statements, having to hide this, I cannot stand that. So I don't know why she had to keep up with him. If she had to keep a lot of secrecy, that was a big burden on her. I would not have managed. That's my take. She shouldn't have stayed with him if she was willing to hide all that from him.
So you don't see a future together in this part, following this particular saga?
No, the marriage was dead long. It was long gone, and she hung into there when she did not trust. I don't know what it was, but she shouldn't have stayed with him if she had to hide so much from him.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much. I'll just look for two more newbies in the program. Frank, I can see Frank here. Let's hear from a man. Frank, and then I'll take two more and we are out of here. Frank, if you can unmute yourself, please. Hello, Frank, are you there? Frank, if you're not there, if you are there, I'll just bring you in. I've seen Abu Bakr Gariwango. I think that seems to be a new name to the conversation. Abu Bakr, do you think you can just come in quickly, or to how do we deal with this situation? How would you deal with this situation? Abu Bakr? Abu Bakr Gariwango, Are you there? Trying to wrap up. We were just actually flowing very well. I can see NK, who has also been in the conversation since the start. NK, are you there? NK. So people have gone quiet, subhanallah. NK, can you unmute yourself, please? All right. There's a hand from 75W Radio, and I hadn't even got it here. Please go ahead, 75W Radio. How do you deal with this situation?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I think for me personally, I think it's quite simple. The man should just calm down because now the lady is sick in hospital. So everything is going to literally go back to him. So it's in a way an investment that he didn't prepare for. But alhamdulillah, everything is literally in his control now. So
not necessarily because it is not in his name. There would have to be a legal battle.
He must be the next of kin because he's the husband, no?
Well, at least in the school circumstance, because with the home we know for sure. With the school, we don't know the finer details of what was actually happening. But as a way forward, finding yourself in a situation like this, how would you deal with that? How would you go forward from this? Millie, I think, is saying, but remember, we only know the man's side of things. Maybe the woman had a very good reason why she did what she did. Definitely.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Why?
If it was you, and may God forbid, if it was you in that sort of situation, how do you go forward? Do you break up, as Stella was suggesting, or how do you patch up this kind of?
I think I would break up unless her only excuse is that she was investing it for me. Yeah, if she says she was investing it for me and she's going to transfer the things in my names, then yeah, we're together. But other than that, boy, because why else is she hiding?
Umuraihan said that men when you go away and a vision for your families. I think this was to take away a lot of takeaways there. Someone was saying, how about if your husband is not one of those that is not well? If I'm under someone who is not even suggesting we build, and I take the initiative, why then would I be blamed? So all the money he sent for rent, he could not use his brain to suggest they build. The blame suddenly goes. It's not every day that we have you in the conversation. I'm just wrapping up now. I just want to make sure sina gwendekana kigambo munyarwanda kita kunigana ijambo yobako gwendesenga tajje kiri ku mutima. Hajati zamzam obulide bigambo bino. How do we go forward? Hajati zamzam. Hajati zamzam. We are just trying to wrap up. Thank you very, very much for a very, very interesting conversation. I'm sure we can do it again next week when we get the time, inshallah, with another beautiful and insightful topic where we shall be, well, looking at a new topic that will come up. I think we don't have a topic yet, but it's always from you that we get these conversations and we build the conversations, all with the aim of building our communities, seeing how we can make relationships work where they can work. Where they cannot, then alhamdulillah, we can at least give prayers to those who are coming. Chiwanuka's iPhone, I can see you are there. I'd like to hear from you. It's not every day that we have you on the conversation. Chiwanuka ebigambo obiwulidde. What's your take? How do we mend this problem? Chiwanuka? Okay. Ismail Mugisha, you're there. I'm just wrapping up now. If you can unmute yourself, please. We're just wrapping it, 17 minutes. Oh my God, we've gone quite deep into our time, but I think it was important. Ismail Mugisha, are you there? Also missing in action. Well, and I need someone to wrap up with. Abubakar Galiwangu Yabuze. I can see Jamila. Jamila, are you there? Maybe you will be the last person, the final person to have the last word tonight. Jamila, are you there? Jamila, if you can unmute yourself, please. And messages, asale pressure. That's the recommendation there. Just taking one last person. I'm just looking for one last person there. The unusual voices on the conversation. Then to in Phoenix, not 6, please. If you can unmute yourself. In Phoenix. not 6. Oh, subhanallah. People have given up now. I can see Wesley. Wesley? And what I can say is Arabic last minute. Okay, I think we will wrap it with that. I can only thank you very, very, very much for the time that you have dedicated tonight. 8 to 10 is the usual time every Tuesday. The program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, on 75 W Radio and on Umma Connect on Facebook, on YouTube, on Zoom, and soon on both Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. We'll be going live with different conversations. This is your global community conversation where no topic is out of bounds. We just make sure we just discuss it within bounds, but no topic is out of bounds. And I thank you very much for making the time tonight. I can only wish you a very good night. Stay well, stay safe. Inshallah, we meet next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tomorrow on 75 W Radio, they will be bridging the gap. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.